The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to 7 Secrets of Writing Success. I am Professor Nguyen, an IELTS instructor here at Avant Healthcare. Thank you for joining us today to improve your writing. I see here in our poll that 54% would rate their skills as medium, 38% say low, and 8% would rate their skills as high. Now, unfortunately, writing is a weak subject for many students when they go to take the IELTS test or the TOEFL test. It's unfortunate because many English classes around the world do not emphasize writing. Using the communicative method, the emphasis is on speaking, except when you need to go and take one of these tests or to be a well-rounded professional, a bilingual using English, you need to be able to write as well. So today we're looking at the 7 secrets of writing success. 7 secrets of writing success. All right. Number 1, start with a plan. Number 2, organize your ideas in paragraphs. Number 3, find your voice. Number 4, add variety. Number 5, use good grammar. Number 6, choose your words carefully. And number 7, as those who are in my class always understand, always proofread your writing. Your first draft is what you're writing initially. And really, when if you look at a magazine article or a newspaper article or a book, that has gone through many changes. So your first draft is not the end of the job. It's really just the beginning. The real proof takes place when you edit your document, and that we're going to take a look at some tips to help you with the proofreading. All right, number 1, starting with a plan. Everything starts with a plan, right? Same thing for writing. As Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, well, you plan to fail. And planning takes place in what most are called the pre-writing process. Before you even write down your first word or your first paragraph, your first sentence, you need to be able to plan what exactly that you are going to write. And there are 3 considerations when you're writing in this pre-writing stage. That is the reader, the audience. Who are you writing for? And why are you trying to write? Are you trying to persuade them, to inform them? So it all starts with the audience. Second is the whole topic. What are all of the parts of the topic that you want to talk about? And 3, you need to be able to provide evidence to support your topic. This is especially particular to the IELTS essay or any essay that you write. You are going to answer the question, make an insertion, and you have to be able to support that in your essay. In other words, you need an outline. Now, there are many ways to do an outline. You can just simply write down a main topic like I have here. Children should study a second language. All right, that's your assertion. Now let's what are we going to talk about? What are the paragraphs we're going to talk about? What is the evidence that we're going to bring forth to support our assertion? Well, first, children learn languages faster, much faster than adults. Uh, B, bilinguals can find a job easily in the global economy. And C, people who speak more than one language are wealthier. So these are the three arguments we're going to make. So we have our broad topic, children should study a foreign language, and the supporting topics that we're going to talk about. And each of these will be a main idea of a paragraph that we're going to write. Now, this is more like the linear outline. As I said, there are various forms of outlines. Some people are more visual. You may want to draw circles and connect your ideas that way, kind of like in what I think is called a Venn diagram. And so whether you're visual or whether you're better on paper, make sure that you start your writing with an outline. Number 2, organize your ideas in paragraphs. Remember this formula, very simple. One idea in one paragraph. If you need to bring up another idea, you're probably going to have more than one idea anyway. You're going to need another paragraph. This is very important for the IELTS. One of the criteria that they look for is do you write paragraphs? Do you organize your information in paragraphs? The typical paragraph structure is the following, and this is something I go over with my own students in class over and over again to emphasize this structure. And structure is very important on the IELTS exam. This is something that the IELTS examiners are looking for in both your speaking and in your writing. I always encourage students to write the first sentence to be the topic sentence. Technically, the topic sentence can be the first sentence, it can be the middle sentence, or it can be at the end of the paragraph. But as you'll see, I like to end the paragraph with a transition sentence, and I'll speak about that in a couple of seconds. So always make your first sentence the topic paragraph. Now, you'll see a lot of advice on the web from people who, I don't know, I probably not English teachers. We're not writing a novel. We're writing an information essay. So you're dealing with facts. You're not dealing with hooks. You're not dealing with introduction sentences. You're dealing with facts. And remember, on the test, you only have 40 minutes total for the IELTS essay. Everything that you write needs to be geared to answering the question. Many students, and I have to correct this many times throughout classes, where they start off with an empty sentence, the sun is shining at the beach or something like that. Again, does that answer the question that you're trying to talk about? No, it doesn't. You need a topic sentence for each paragraph. And for your introduction paragraph, you need a thesis statement, which is like a topic sentence for the whole essay. After you write your topic sentence, you want to start your support sentences plus examples. Always give reasons and examples on the IELTS exam. And then finally, you want to have the last sentence to be a transition sentence. Transition from the last idea you were talking about to the new idea you're going to talk about in the next paragraph. This acts as a bridge. And as you bridge your paragraphs, you are creating unity. And this unity of purpose helps your coherence and cohesion score on the exam. Plus, it makes it easier for the reader to understand what you're talking about. So make sure that you emulate this structure when you are writing your paragraphs. Now, you don't need a transition sentence between the last paragraph and the conclusion, but you do need, it would be very helpful for you to write a transition between the other paragraphs. This is something that you don't typically see on the exam, and this is what is going to give you more points because it is so rare. You need to write a transition sentences between your paragraphs. All right. Now, number 3, secret of writing success, find your voice. This is something that every writer does. And when I read someone's papers after 2 or 3 times, I get a feel of their person's writing style. Every person has their own writing style. And when you sit down and read another essay, you're like, wait, that's not the same essay as this from this other person. Because every writing style is like a signature. It's different. It's very personal to the writer. So you need to find your voice as a writer. As I said, your voice is unique. Everyone's voice is unique. Some people love to write in longer sentences and others in shorter sentences. That's another difference. You may use a more sophisticated vocabulary, or maybe you just write in simpler vocabulary. And then sometimes you want to use complex grammar structures, while others keep their structures rather simple. Now, on the IELTS exam, they do want to see these complex grammar structures. And this is going to be the subject of another webinar about how you can write these simple grammar structures on the exam. Number 4, add variety. You don't want to bore your reader, especially if you're, of course, writing for commercial success like a novelist. You have to keep the reader interested in what you're writing. Well, the IELTS examiners are only human themselves, and they're reading about 1,000 essays a day. And what a unique way to be able to get their attention and hold their attention if you could add variety to your writing and make your writing style, your own voice, unique and different from others. This is going to help you on the exam. So let's take a look at this. So there are about 3 ways. I mean, there's more, but we're going to talk about 3 ways to add variety to your writing. As we mentioned earlier, you can write with short and long sentences and mix them up. Longer sentences are going to be able to give thorough explanations of an idea that you're talking about. And then actually coming back and using a shorter sentence makes the point even stronger. It adds emphasis to the point that you're trying to make. This takes practice. Writing is an art, not a science. And this mix of long and short sentences adds variety to your writing. One of the oldest maxims about writing is using nouns and verbs. Writing with nouns and verbs, not so much adjectives, not so much adverbs. They do have their place, but the core of your writing should be with nouns and verbs. And finally, pack information inside your sentences. You want to be able to, especially with, as I said, with an eye toward the IELTS, you want to be able to use relative clauses, whether they're defining or non-defining or an appositive. These are some complex grammar structures, but these also allow you to add information into your sentences. So it's not just Jane threw the ball to Mary. You want to be able to add vivid descriptions of the people you're talking about or the places you're talking about and your ideas. And that will add variety to your writing, and that will also help you gain points on the IELTS exam. So let's look at writing short and long sentences. For example, after Lola arrived home, she cooked lasagna. She was starving. So The first sentence is a complex sentence with the dependent and independent clause. In the second sentence, notice how short it is. She was starving. So it makes the point and drives home the point even more that she, as soon as she arrived home, she cooked lasagna. Why? She was starving. And so this mix of short and long sentences allows you to be able uh, to um, to emphasize your points. Number two, writing with nouns and verbs. For example, the car went swiftly down the street. So we have to go, which is a simple verb, and swiftly, which is an adverb. All right, it's not bad. It's not a bad sentence, but can you use just a noun and verb to make it even more sophisticated? And so you using um, following the maxim that I express with my students often, you want always to say the most using the least words. So here we have better example. The car skidded down the street. So going swiftly down the street is skidding, right? If you lose control of the car or whatever, you would skid down the street. So with just one word, we were able to knock out swiftly and also to replace to go with a better action verb to skid. All right, number 5, using good grammar. Of course, right? Grammar is, by this stage, when you are about on the eve of taking the IELTS exam, your grammar skills should be quite solid. However, it's useful during your IELTS preparation to review your grammar skills and make sure that they are as good as you want them to be. Because good grammar is important for a lot of reasons, but let's look at what happens when you use bad grammar. So when you're using bad grammar, one of the first things that's going to start to happen is that the reader is confused. The person is not able to follow your arguments, and so what you are writing is less effective. Second of all, really as a professional, whether in business or in medicine or what you're doing, it also kind of shows sloppiness on your part as a writer when you use bad grammar. It proves that you did not go back and proofread your mistakes, and that, well, your knowledge of the language isn't so strong. That's not a good thing on the IELTS exam when they're trying to test your level of language. And finally, it projects a negative impression. People, right or wrong, judge you by the words that you use. This goes into vocabulary, but also into the grammar. Sloppy grammar is going to reflect badly upon you as a professional as well, because you're unable to express yourself on the ideas that are very important, and that gives a negative impression to your reader. Number 6, choose your words carefully. Low vocabulary and low writing skills go together. And unfortunately, again, in many English classrooms around the world, vocabulary is not given prominence. It may only be talked about in passing when you're in a reading class or doing a reading assignment. But one of the best moves you can make right now, starting today, if you're preparing for the IELTS exam, is to improve your vocabulary, especially for writing, but also for speaking as well. Plus, really, vocabulary cuts all the way across the test. You need good vocabulary in the reading and also in the listening as well. Mark Twain, who was a U.S. Novelist from the 19th century, said, "Writing is easy, all you have to do is cross out the wrong words. Well, using the right words is one of the challenges that you have when you're preparing for the IELTS exam and, of course, while you're on taking the IELTS test. So you want to read to build a vocabulary. Read extensively. Now, often when I'm talking with students, they are reading in their field, right? Medical journals, scientific journals, but you need to read outside of your area. You have to go outside of your comfort zone and challenge yourself. So you want to read book reports, read movie reviews, uh, read a travel article or a financial article or just a regular general news article. You want to be able to read widely and extensively. And the more that you read and the better you get at reading, the easier the reading test is going to be able to get comprehension. And also, reading also helps you to, of course, build your vocabulary and to extend your vocabulary outside of your comfort zone. As the French say, le mot juste. This is using the right word at the right time. Now, while you want to build a sophisticated vocabulary and improve and strengthen your skills that you have now, if you use the words that you've learned incorrectly, then that's not going to impress anyone, or especially the IELTS examiner on the test. So you want to be able to use the words correctly after you learn the words. And remember your audience. Choose their words. How are you going to relate to them and communicate to them? You have to choose the words of the audience. Let's take a better look at this. So as I was saying, read to build the vocabulary. See the words that the author uses, the grammar structures and styles. Get clues to improve your own writing. And what words do they use to be able to express their own thoughts? Well, you can borrow those and use them as part of your own writing. And see, you're starting to develop your own voice. Number 2, le mot juste, as the French say, for correct word. Avoid or explain technical words or difficult terms that your readers do not know. Instead of conduct a review of the mayor's conduct, you could say instead, review the mayor's behavior. So this is something that we call register. As a translator, register is the level of words that you use. Do you say conduct a review, or do you say just simply review the mayor's conduct? This is always a question that you have to answer as a writer, and this will help you to use the right word at the right time. Remember your audience. Remember their words that they would use when they're speaking. Do you write provide, or do you simply write give? This is an example of the register. 2 words that mean the same, but one of them, well, provide you would probably think is more on a higher level. So if you were writing for executives, then you would use the word provide. But if you were writing for just the general staff at a company or at your hospital or something, you might just use the word give. Give your financial details for the loan. Same words, but different register, different levels of sophistication. And this is, as I said, a question that writers must answer when they are writing. And finally, number 7 secret of writing success is proofreading. I always tell my students over and over to proofread their papers, and then I get their papers and there are careless mistakes and some glaring mistakes sometimes in their grammar vocabulary use, structure. These are some things that you want to look for when you proofread. Remember, when you're writing when you're writing the essay on the IELTS test, that's really just your draft. That's your initial paper that you're writing. Only when you go back through it and read it will you be able to make it better than it was before. As I said, when you look at a magazine or a book article, that has gone through many revisions. And of course, they have professional editors looking over this before it gets to your eyes. Well, on the IELTS test, you are your own editor. And this depends on your level of vocabulary, your level of grammar skills. You're going to have to be able to proofread your own paper. So in Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, he wrote, "When I use a word," Humpty Dumpty said in a rather scornful tone, "it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less." Here are 3 proofreading checks to make sure that you are communicating exactly what you want the reader to understand. Number 1, you want to check for any grammar mistakes, of course. In your IELTS essay, immediately check for grammar errors when you finish your paper. Now, if you're taking the online exam, even easier. You won't have any scratch outs or anything. All you have to do is go in and edit the text on the word processor, and poof, it's as if it never existed. Go on to the next mistake and correct it as well. Also check for vocabulary errors. Have you used the right word at the right time in the right place? Le mot juste, right? Is this the correct word to use, or is there another word I could use? And finally, punctuation problems. Yes, punctuation problems. Now, if you attended one of my earlier webinars, we talked about some grammar mistakes and using the commas. People like to shower their papers with commas. And remember, every sentence needs to end in a period. Let's take a look at some of these challenges here. Number 1, grammar mistakes. Well, a good sentence is going to follow this simple pattern: a subject, a verb, and an object. Now, when you're writing quickly, under time pressure, I understand that maybe at the beginning you miss a verb. That's why it's so good that you have to proofread to go back and make sure every sentence has a subject and a verb. If not, then that's a fragment. And a fragment is going to lower your score on the IELTS exam. You always want to make sure that your sentence also expresses complete thoughts. After I arrived home, here in our example, as you can see, well, what happened after I arrived home? We don't know. That's not a sentence. It appears to have a subject, I, and it appears to have the verb arrived, but what about after? See, this is a dependent clause. We need the other part of the sentence to understand what you're trying to say. And in your haste of writing, and of course writing in a different language than what's your own language, sometimes people forget to complete their sentence, or they forget to add a verb into their sentence. This is why proofreading is so important. Are there any vocabulary errors? It's and its, right? It is versus it's the possessive. There, and there. Effect, right? There are many confusing word pairs in English, and you want to be aware of those. This is part of your vocabulary study during preparation, so that you know the difference between effect, which means to have an impact on something, and effect, which is a result of something. And finally, are there any punctuation problems? As I mentioned earlier, every sentence, and I ask this of my students, doesn't your language use periods at the end of your sentences? Well, it's no different in English. Use a period after a complete thought. Once you have written a subject and verb and a complete thought, then you are ready to add a period at the end of the sentence. And then start the next sentence with the capital letter. Often what I see is what we have here in our second example, no comma between the two sentences, right? A comma is not strong enough to hold two sentences together. The cat meowed, the dog rolled over. Well, you need a period after the cat meowed, and then start the new sentence with the dog, the capital T and the for the dog rolled over. You always want to make sure that you have a period after each of the sentences. Well, those are the 7 secrets of writing success. First, start with the plan. As we said, you want to have this in your pre-writing process to think about what are you going to write? What are your arguments? Number 2, organize your ideas in paragraphs. One idea, one paragraph. Number 3, find your voice. As you develop as a writer, you start to pick up unique signatures about your writing. Are you writing in short sentences, longer sentences, adjective, adverbs? Every writer has a unique style. Number 4, don't bore the reader. You want to add variety. Number 5, use good grammar, of course. You want to review over your grammar during the IELTS preparation so that you are better able to use it correctly on the exam. Number 6, choose your words carefully. This is le mot juste, as we're talking about, where you use the right word in the right place at the right time. And finally, number 7, proofread. You're only as good as your last proofread paper. Some students think that after they finish the IELTS essay that they're done. Well, if you only have a minute or two until the clock expires, then you are done. But you want to be able to write fast enough and have at least 5 minutes at the end of your writing to review your paper to make sure that there are no vocabulary mistakes, grammar mistakes, or punctuation mistakes. Well, thank you very much for joining us today for our presentation from Avant Healthcare, 7 Secrets of Writing Success. Don't forget to download the handout, which is a PDF of this presentation. Thank you for participating in the poll as well, and continue to improve your English, writing, speaking, listening, and reading. And stay tuned for more information next week for more seminars that I'm going to put on that are going to help you to improve your IELTS score. Thank you very much.